Part of what makes the Demon Slayer story so compelling is the fact that it's filled with heartbreak and sacrifice. But what if all of that could have been avoided? In today's video, we'll be covering two different storylines to figure out what would happen if Demon Slayer had a perfect ending. Now before we get into these stories, we need to figure out what exactly a perfect ending is. For our first timeline, we'll interpret it as none of the main cast or characters dying or suffering in their lifetimes. But most Demon Slayers we know only ever join the Corps because of a tragic encounter with demons. So does that mean we'll be defeating Muzan without the likes of Gyomei, Sanemi, or Tanjiro? Well, yes, but not really. For this storyline, we're going all the way back to the Sengoku era, where Yoriichi invented sun breathing. Picture this, it's approximately 400 years before Tanjiro's birth, and Yoriichi Tsugikuni has just faced Muzan Kibutsuji in their fateful battle in the bamboo forest. In the original timeline, Yoriichi came agonizingly close to killing Muzan by almost slicing through all 7 of the Demon King's hearts and 5 brains. But in a desperate attempt to escape, Muzan exploded into 1,800 flesh fragments, and 300 of them escaped underground before Yoriichi could slash them. This allowed Muzan to regenerate and terrorize humanity for 4 more centuries, and despite his best efforts, Yoriichi never encountered the Demon King again. But what if things went differently? You see, Muzan wasn't alone that day. Tamayo was right there by his side. While all demons are forced to serve Muzan, Yoriichi's attacks freed Tamayo of her curse, allowing her to plot the Demon King's downfall independently. In the original storyline, Yoriichi spared Tamayo and never met her again. But in our version, Yoriichi approaches Tamayo and gives her a choice. She could either help him take down the Demon King by joining forces with the Demon Slayer Corps, or die by his sword then and there. But would the Demon Slayers even accept a demon at this point in time? This isn't really a problem, because Yoriichi was already banished from the Demon Slayers because his brother, Michikatsu, had been transformed into a demon. This means that Yoriichi and Tamayo are free to operate from the shadows in order to take down Muzan. Tamayo dedicates herself to studying demon physiology, with Yoriichi assisting her by capturing weaker demons and extracting their blood. This is far more efficient than Tanjiro's efforts in the original timeline, because of Yoriichi's unique physiology and overall skill. The base of Tamayo's poison is the wisteria flower, but then she remembers that before Muzan killed his doctor in a fit of rage, the physician had mentioned the blue spider lily. In the original timeline, Muzan spent centuries searching for this flower, always failing because it only blooms during daylight for 2 or 3 days per year. But Tamayo has an advantage Muzan never did. She can work with humans who walk in the sun. But here's where things get really interesting, because Tanjiro's ancestors, the Kamado family, live near a mountain where blue spider lilies bloom. So when Yoriichi saves Sumiyoshi Kamado and his family from demons one day, he doesn't only gain a friend, he also sees the blue spider lily blooming nearby. Over the next several years, Tamayo develops something revolutionary, a drug derived from the blue spider lily that can destroy Muzan at a cellular level. Unlike a simple poison, this medication targets the very mechanism that allows Muzan to regenerate and split his body. She combines this with wisteria compounds and her extensive knowledge of demon biology to create a 4-stage weapon, just like we saw in the Taisho era showdown against Muzan. Armed with this weapon, Tamayo seeks out Yoriichi, who is now in his prime, and agrees to face Muzan once more. They set their trap carefully, and using Tamayo as bait in a region that has reported many new demon sightings, they lure Muzan to a clearing in the dead of night. Tanjiro and the Hashira of his era needed the sunlight to finish off Muzan, but Yoriichi doesn't even need that advantage. The Demon King arrives confidently, believing he can simply flee if overwhelmed again, but as he captures Tamayo, she injects the drug directly into Muzan's body. The Demon King immediately feels something is wrong. His cells are burning from within, but before he can even get his bearings, Yoriichi strikes with the perfected 13th form of sun breathing. His blade glows crimson red as it cuts through Muzan's body, and the Demon King tries to escape by splitting apart once again. But the drug has done its work. Each fragment begins to disintegrate on its own, unable to regenerate or rejoin. Yoriichi systematically destroys every piece, while Tamayo ensures none can escape, and as the sun rises over the horizon, the last fragments of Muzan Kibutsuji burn away into the morning light. With Muzan dead, every demon he created across Japan begins to disintegrate simultaneously, as the curse binding them to the Demon King finally breaks. Yoriichi becomes a legend, remembered as the man who saved humanity. He passes on sun breathing to his disciples, not to fight demons, but to preserve the breathing techniques as a martial art and meditation practice. Without demons terrorizing Japan, the Kamado family lives in peace, and Tanjiro's ancestors pass down their dance and traditions without the trauma of demon attacks. Families like the Shinazugawa, Tokito, and Kocho clans never lose their loved ones to demons, and their children grow up with both parents. The Ubuyashiki family's curse ends in the Sengoku era as well, and we get a perfect ending where the threat of demons is completely exterminated by Yoriichi. In this timeline, Tanjiro becomes a simple charcoal seller who lives a long, peaceful life surrounded by family, and that's not a tragedy, it's a blessing. But in the first storyline, we don't see any of the characters we know and love, so let's take a look at a second version that's set in the Taisho era. The main story proceeds normally right until Tanjiro becomes a demon slayer, but we need to prevent all the deaths from there onwards. The first major loss we need to prevent is Kyojuro Rengoku, because his was the most devastating death in the early series. So for the Mugen Train arc, we have the one Hashira that would actually stand a chance against the Upper Moon 3 and can be trusted with the 3 kids, Gyomei Himejima. The story unfolds as usual and the Demon Slayers defeat Enmu together. After the Mugen Train crashes, Akaza arrives, hungry for a worthy fight, and immediately challenges Gyomei. Gyomei held his own against Kokushibo, who's far stronger than Akaza, even without awakening his Demon Slayer mark. Given that the battle takes place close to dawn, and Akaza would waste some time trying to convince Gyomei to become a demon, it's likely that the Stone Hashira would be able to hold out until sunrise. As dawn approaches, Akaza makes the tactical decision to retreat, fleeing into the forest with frustration burning in his eyes. While Gyomei is still injured, the Kakushi arrive with immediate medical attention, and Rengoku remains alive as he wasn't involved in this mission. The Entertainment District and Swordsmith Village arcs don't change at all here, since there are no deaths and Tengen would have retired to be with his wives anyway. When Muzan attacks the Ubuyashiki mansion, Kaguya still sacrifices himself in the explosion. He was already dying, and this gives him a chance to go out in a blaze of glory. Similarly, Tamayo also sacrifices herself to inject Muzan with her powerful aging drug, as it's been her life purpose to take down the Demon King. The Infinity Castle arc begins, but this time the battle unfolds with better strategic coordination. Shinobu encounters Doma, the demon who killed her sister, and in the original timeline, she sacrificed herself to poison him. But in this version, Giyu crashes through the ceiling as backup, and helps Shinobu face off against the Upper Moon 2. Originally, Shinobu almost managed to hold off Doma until Inosuke and Kanao arrived, so with Giyu's defensive support, she should have no issues surviving that long. When Kanao and Inosuke arrive, the combined efforts of all 4 fighters occupy the Upper Moon 2 for longer, giving more time for Shinobu's poison to take effect. Eventually, the onslaught becomes just too much, and Kanao uses the flower-breathing final form, Equinoctial Vermilion Eye, to behead Doma. Meanwhile, Tanjiro faces Akaza again, but this time Rengoku is at his side. Both swordsmen have awakened their Demon Slayer marks, and Tanjiro enters the Selfless State. The combination of Rengoku's experience and Tanjiro's unique abilities proves too much for the Upper Moon 3. The most challenging fight involves Kokushibo, the Upper Moon 1 and the strongest demon after Muzan. In the original timeline, Muichiro died in this battle, his body severed in half after being caught off guard. But our perfect timeline changes the dynamics. Muichiro and Gyomei face Kokushibo together from the start, with the Stone Hashira's experience keeping the young Mist Hashira from being overwhelmed. The two struggle against Kokushibo's moon-breathing, barely holding their ground until Saname Shinazugawa and his brother Genya arrive. In this version of events, Genya manages to bite off a piece from one of Kokushibo's flesh swords before being slashed, and temporarily gains demonic powers. With all the conditions for victory fulfilled, the 3 Hashira awaken their Demon Slayer marks and turn their swords bright red, while Genya holds the demon in place. Muichiro loses an arm and is badly wounded, but barely makes it out alive. Genya is also severely injured, but because he gained his wounds while in his demon form, he survives. With all the Upper Moons defeated, the Demon Slayers converge on Muzan. Tamayo's drug has already aged Muzan significantly and slowed his regeneration, but now he faces something he never did in the original timeline: every surviving Hashira fighting together. The Demon King unleashes every ounce of his power, desperate to survive until sunset, but this time, the Demon Slayers have more than enough firepower to match his attacks. As the sun rises over the ruined Infinity Castle, Tanjiro delivers the finishing blow with Sun-Breathing's 13th form. Muzan disintegrates in the morning light, and the Demon King is finally defeated. The Demon Slayers disband, as humanity's greatest threat has been eliminated, and the remaining Demon Slayers are free to pursue their dreams. Tanjiro returns to his childhood home, and eventually gets married to Kanao a few years later, while Sun-Breathing is preserved in his family as the Hinokami Kagura in case it's ever needed again. So what do you think about this timeline? Is it better than the original? Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss another incredible Demon Slayer video.